Hello, beautiful human. We're about to talk Christmas with Samara Joy. But first, I want to give you a Christmas gift. I want to gift you the mattress that changed my life. Seriously, it's free. Just click the link in the description below to win. It's a Vibrasonic mattress. It's the first ever mattress to have speakers built into it. So movies hit different, podcasts hit different, meditation noises hit different. It's amazing. You could build a whole surround sound, starting with the bed. Or it can connect to your existing surround sound system or your speaker. It's wild. Plus, it's an amazing mattress. The adjustable base will align to your spine. Plus, when you get hot, it gets cold. So if you want it, it's free. Click the link below to win. Merry Christmas. Hello, beautiful human. I am Zach, and I welcome to my not studio, Samara Joy, everybody. Hello. Samara Joy, yay. Snaps for the snaps. Yes.
Very much yay.
You give old soul.
Off rip. That's what I like.
You really get, I'm trying to understand how old you really are, but it's not 23.
That's what it says on the documents, inside. Maybe I feel like I'm in the late 30s or something like that. Maybe that's not even that old, but I don't know.
Do you channel that? Do you really feel like you are older than you are?
Maybe it's because of my parents are older and, I listen to the music that they listened to growing up. I do consume a bit of pop culture. I know people's names. I'm not like, who's that? But no, I don't think I try to channel it. I think it's kind of a part of who I am,
Well, it also comes out in the way you sing, because there's no way that you can have the vocal range and ability that you do and not have it be channeled by emotion and or story, whether that story was lived by you or passed down to you.
Right.
Is that accurate?
I mean, yes, to a degree.
So can you explain to me when you go into the studio to cut anything? And obviously cutting a Christmas album is different than cutting something that is original to you. Right? Because you're covering something, you're reworking something, and I want to dive into what that is. And I'm also assuming that for you, a Christmas album is a big fucking deal with somebody with your vocal ability, correct?
I think any material that I get to record is important to me because recordings are forever, and so I want, in everything that I do, I want it to be authentic to me. I want it to be, something that people connect with because I put my all into it, not just Christmas material, that's more important than what I'm doing or whatever.
No, I think, and I say important meaning they're classic songs on this body of work that have stood the test of time way before anybody in this room was around, will be around long after us. But what does happen from time to time is this ability to cover a record and have it be more popular than the original to a whole generation of people.
That's true.
Right?
That's very true.
And I think when you take on something like this, only so many people can add real heart and emotion to it. It's different.
It is. Yeah, it's different for sure. And it might be even a little bit of a challenge because it's such lived-in material that's been covered time and time again. But I understand the assignment of it's a millennial for you. But whenever I go into the studio, for something like Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas or maybe a song that nobody has heard before, it's I'm just putting my unique, voice on it, and hopefully it comes across as such.
How do you deconstruct something? So let's just take Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. You describe it as lived in material. I mean, lived in by every single person almost on earth. So how do you deconstruct it and retell this story in a way that only you can?
I try to make it as organic as possible, because if I try to break it down and analyze it too much, then the sauce that has kept it around for so long, it might be lost in my interpretation. But I'll look at something as simple as the way that something has been recorded. Maybe it's recorded in 4/4 time. For Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, I wanted to do it as a waltz. I wanted to do it in 3. That was my, maybe distinctive separation from how it's been recorded and so far, and how I could make it unique. But it's just simple things like that, the way that I'll phrase the melody, the way that I'll interpret it. I don't try to deconstruct. I try to just be organic with it. If I have an idea, we'll let it flow in the studio, and then hopefully when people hear it, it'll come across as organic.
So do you hear that in your head before you shout the idea out, or do you just kind of let it roll in the studio and see where it goes?
Sometimes before I'll make sure to have an idea of what I want on each song, and we'll play through it either in rehearsal or in the studio. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And that's how ideas develop.
How did you ultimately pick and curate these 6 records?
Well, I wanted to choose stuff that I loved too, because things like the Christmas song, Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, those are ones that resonate with me too. And so I know they'll resonate with other people as they have for years. But songs like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Me, not many people may know that it was recorded by Stevie Wonder, and it's basically him talking as from the perspective of a star on top of a Christmas tree, which I thought was really beautiful and sweet. And so I wanted to add my interpretation of that on the recording, as well as a song like Warm in December, which was recorded by a singer named Julie London. And even though it's not necessarily a Christmas song or a Christmas standard, it does, reflect and talk about the time of year, and, how... and it's like a romance, like a love song, kind of like a standard where it's like, even though it's cold outside, I want to keep you warm in December. I just thought it was, I wanted to pick songs that not only were classics like the Christmas song and like Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, but stuff that still describes the time of year in a beautiful way.
How did you find that Julie London record?
It was recommended to me. Yeah, actually, so I didn't find it, but I decided to use it.
And I mean, even your relationship with a song like "Oh Holy Night," I mean, everybody knows, like, growing up, like, where you were, either when you would hear that song over and over again, where you heard it for the first time. I mean, it plays a part in the holiday, and everybody has memories attached to it. So a song like that, I mean, where does it bring you back to?
With that song, it brings me back to when I was first starting to sing lead in church. Believe it or not, it was when I was like 15 years old. Before that, I was like kind of singing in the choir and like kind of in the background or whatever. But I remember one Christmas, the people in the music department of the church, they wanted me to do a duet with my dad because he was also a part of the church band. And so, that was kind of like a special thing that we did together, a duet. And there is a duet of us on the record, but this particular record, Oh Holy Night, it features my grandfather, my dad, my cousins, my brother, and my uncle. And so that song in particular brings me back to the duets that I would do in church with my dad around Christmas time. And now I'm able to share with everybody a family version, a full-on McClendon family version of a song that always reminds me of my family.
That lives forever.
Yes, forever.
So what is it like bringing in, I mean, obviously it's innate in you, right? Making music with family. Mm-hmm. Is that the right assumption, as you've been doing it since the very beginning? So does it almost feel uncomfortable to do it not with them?
No, I mean, I definitely took some getting used to for me, because I was like, even though I did stuff here and there in school, like, musical theater and stuff like that, I wasn't really used to the spotlight per se. So to go from singing with my family, enjoying music in that space, enjoying music in school, no pressure situations, to now all of a sudden being in front of, thousands of people online and on tour and everything like that. It definitely took some adjusting, but I feel glad, that I had that foundation with them. So now I can carry that with me when I'm doing solo stuff and share the experiences that I had growing up on stage, upcoming on tour, and on this EP with my family.
When you're making your stuff in the studio, are they the producers and the instrument, the people playing the instrument that you choose to have around you?
Are they the producers?
Like not producers, but are they the people you choose to create with? Like, are they playing on all the songs that you've done?
Sometimes. See, I curate that as well.
Yeah, you curate the room. So you curate the room based on who from your family could do what? That's
true. But on this one in particular, everybody's singing. And so I was like, okay, I know me and my cousin can sing, can alternate between alto and soprano. My dad's and my uncle and my grandfather, they all have the tenor part and stuff like that. And my cousins. But usually in the studio, I pick the musicians. I pick the songs, and who I want in the studio.
Are you arranging it all too?
Some, but like the ideas that I mentioned before, it's like I'll be like, let's play it as a waltz, or let's have this ending, and I'll maybe sing something to imply to the musicians that this is the kind of ending that I want. but I don't arrange completely. I do rely, on the musicians to help me flesh out any ideas that I have.
What has been the problem with jazz for so long, and why do you think it's not accessible to as many people as it should be? It's a conversation I have. I'm friends with Leve, and it's very much a relevant conversation, right? Is the accessibility of a genre that has been far too inaccessible to so many, which has ultimately led to I hate to be that guy, but like, it's like not, it hasn't been popular up until fairly recently. You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's the wrong thing to say, but it's honest.
Yeah.
It hurts.
I don't know. The problem, I feel like the problem is we've been focusing on the problem for too much and being like, why isn't jazz more accessible? Why, and although I understand, we should fund programs, and have music in schools and stuff like that, because that's really where it starts. And that where a lot of my favorite artists, they always reference teachers, as being the reason that they started having good programs like that for them to boost their careers and maybe feel like they can pursue this love without, worrying about career and stuff like that. But always talking about jazz is dead, jazz is dying, it's a problem, nobody listens to it anymore.
As of recently, though, we're in like this wave.
Or maybe
it
isn't as of recently to people who don't listen to it, because that audience has always been there.
100%.
But mainstream, I think that's when we want to talk about.
Next generation, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, how does something... I so agree with you, right? By the way, talent is equally distributed in this country, but opportunity isn't. And like, so much of what you have access to is determined based on a couple of numbers that make up a zip code, and that could determine quality education, the adults you have around you, the arts programs that exist. People could have something just laying dormant inside, and nobody taps into it.
Right.
That's solely based on what's around you, and that is a shame, like 100%. But there is something to. Is there a way, like, and maybe this is just a too elementary way of thinking it, but like, I believe that like pop music is popular music, so it's a collection of every genre, right? That's what I think it should be. This format, jazz format, has the ability to be that, but I do think you battle purists all the time. Do you get what I'm saying?
I feel that.
That believe that jazz needs to be one thing of one way for one type of person. When the
similar, like with gospel purists and R&B purists and pop purists, I feel like every genre has that issue, maybe to a degree, of people who wish it was like the good old days and that kind of thing. But I just like those, genres that were allowed to evolve: R&B, gospel, soul, folk, everything. Jazz has a lot of contributors, a lot of young contributors who may not have the love of the purist jazz audience, but who do have an audience. And I don't think, a lot of people tell me that I'm saving it, that Leve is saving it, that all these people are saving it. We're really just adding our voice to it, because I can't save anything, like just because I'm, performing this music, are people going to know who Thelonious Monk is or Miles Davis is? No, they're just going to listen to me, so or hopefully they'll listen to them as a result. But I don't know, because if we're going to, I don't know. I don't want to talk about the problems. I think the positive thing is that, there are more people listening to these artists that are incorporating jazz into their format, that are allowing their love of jazz to shine through, regardless of whether it makes mainstream or not. And I think that's maybe what's connecting with people, is that we're not trying to do it to preserve nostalgia. We're doing it because we love it and we want to add our voice to it. Just like our heroes, or at least my heroes, Dizzy Gillespie, Sarah Vaughan, they all had a unique voice in this music. They all spearheaded a sound, that can't be replicated, so we can only do our best to be ourselves individually,
True. Why did that just move me? I think that same practice should be applied to a bunch of things that are historical, just lines of art and communication and companionship throughout culture. You get what I'm saying? Like, there is something to this idea that like, you don't need to be exactly what was to be exactly what is today and what will be, right? Like, nobody is listening to you to be what people fucking were listening to 50, 70, 60, 100 years ago. Right. I want to know what that sounds like today. And that's the only way, like, anything moves forward is giving this grace or this room for modern present interpretation and the ability to take something in and then regurgitate it on your own, you know?
Exactly.
But I think there's just in a few different industries, like a few different genres or a few different, again, like lines of companionship and just that feed into culture. Like it's a battle. But it is really interesting because you are what jazz is today. You're never going to be what jazz was before. But the acceptance of what jazz is and what this type of music is today only then allows it to move forward at all.
Exactly.
It's a really fascinating conversation that is bigger than like any one person. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
You have one of the greatest voices I've ever heard.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's wild. And I only like to listen on headphones so I can get real nuance and the detail of like your performance and what you bring. And like, do you you're not layering anything? Is it one take in the room? Can you just try to take me into the studio to the best of your ability?
Well, in the studio, I like having at least 3 takes. After that, I don't want to do anymore just because I feel like it starts to lose, the maybe spontaneity. I start to fall into like habits and kind of the same lines, the same ideas. So yeah, in the studio, like even for Linger a While, the second album that I made, we recorded it in 2 days. I think I had maybe like 3 takes of each song. And we only put 10 on the like final tracks, but we recorded like 15 songs in those 2 days. And I don't know, I just like to go for it, That's my, and that's, I've only had limited experience in the studio. So that's just based on the experiences that I've had so far. Maybe in the future, I'll spend a week in the studio or, only do it at night or only do it in the morning, that kind of thing. But so far, it's just, I really, like when I'm in it, when we do a couple of takes and I'm like, okay, I think we got it. We'll go to lunch, come back, do it again, that kind of thing. And and corrections need to be made, like I'm isolated in a booth. And I've been told, to pretend that the mic is the listener's ear. And because it is forever, I want it to forever, be something that the listener can feel, listen to on headphones, listen on speaker. But yeah.
It works.
It works. Thank you.
How do you prepare before you go into the studio? Because you essentially go nonstop. Are you preparing before you go in there? Like, what do you come armed with? I
don't eat normally. I like to be on an empty stomach. Just because I don't want to feel weighed down, maybe. Like I want to have full clarity, which might be weird. Like, don't follow me, but don't follow after my example. But I don't know, the basic necessities. I want to be prepared with where the music is concerned. I don't want to, because I don't really like to rehearse in the studio. When I'm in the studio, I want to, we have something set. We have the form, we have the solos, however many choruses or whatever. But yeah, when we're in the studio, I want to record.
Do you know where you want to place runs, or are you just kind of letting it go?
Sometimes, because some of the songs that I do, I've done live before, and so I've been able to work out where I would place a run. But even listening back to Linger a While, there are certain things that I do that I'm like, yeah, that happened in the spur of the moment. And I'm glad, I was able to just let it go and not be, because sometimes I feel afraid because I'm recording to try anything spur of the moment, maybe wait till I'm live so that I don't have to like feel maybe restricted or whatever. But yeah, in the studio, I like spur of the moment things.
Is that something that you figured out from making that body of work that you've carried with you and everything you make moving forward?
It's something that I've learned. I think it's mostly been learned on the road. And I'm glad that I'm able to translate that also to being in the studio, But yeah, on the road, I think, is where I mostly learned that kind of thing.
Interesting. By the way, like, not many musicians can say that. Like, no. How, like, can I just ask, like, how many performances will you do in a year?
Over 200.
Wow. Just in case you need to know, there's 365 days.
Yeah, a lot.
Wow. 365 in a year, 200. That's a lot of performances.
Yeah, it is.
But there's nothing like that in terms of what it does to the muscle that is being what you do.
Exactly.
Do you remember the worst performance you've ever had?
Oh,
Because everybody's had them. That's really great. And it could be like,
That's
be
true.
from when you were a kid. Because I do make the case that like you really can't sell out big venues until somebody's like threw a beer at you or you performed for nobody,
Right.
you know?
oh, the worst performance. Well, when I think of worst, I think in terms of vocal performance because I like the fact that no matter how many people are there, you know, and I know it's maybe easy to say it now, but no matter how many people are there, whether it's like 10 people, like I had on my first ever jazz gig was in a club upstate called Maureen's, and it was like $15 at the door. You know, the guy thankfully gave me a chance to go and perform. I think I was in my junior year of undergrad, and it was like 10 people, but they were, and like half of them were my friends and my family. But I still had a great time, you know, presenting because I know there were people in the audience that cared about me. But my worst performance vocal wise, I was looking forward to doing this musical in high school called Urinetown.
Classic.
And I was Pennywise and I lost my voice like a day before because I wasn't taking care of it. I wasn't taking my vitamins. It was cold and all that stuff. And so I had to like speak through most of my songs. So maybe that was the worst performance that I've had. But there have definitely been a couple after that. But that's the worst where I felt like, oh my gosh, like I've been working on these high notes and stuff. And now I just, you know, I'm in front of all my classmates and peers and stuff and I can't execute the way I want to. But
it's okay.
Yeah.
You've done just fine.
I'm recovering still.
Yeah, you won a trophy or two.
True.
Do you remember, like, correct me if I'm wrong, like, you went viral, right? Like, that was one of the things that, like, brought you into the mainstream, just, like, awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember the moment you wanted to go from singing in church to, like, even posting something, let alone, like, trying to create your space within the jazz world?
Yeah, I didn't post much while I was in church, but I do remember before getting into undergrad and wanting to kind of be a part of the social media world. I used to love being on Instagram, seeing other people's videos go viral and you know, being introduced to all these singers and stuff. But I didn't start using TikTok and Instagram seriously until January of 2022. And that's when my first video went viral, which was me in a class with a great pianist who passed away. His name was Barry Harris. And I was singing one of his songs. And that was like the last thing that I expected to go viral because it was just, you know, not popular. I wasn't even like in the camera. I was like somebody else taking a video of me that I didn't realize.
All those factors is exactly why it would
Exactly,
go viral.
no, right.
It's like you not being in the frame, some other person doing
Right.
it. It's weird.
Me, and just like, it was like 9:00 at night or something like that. It was just, but you know, that was one of the first moments. I think the second moment was me reacting to when Regina King like mentioned my name and that she liked my singing in this Hollywood Reporter Zoom like round table with Spike Lee and George Clooney and stuff. And I was just like, Jesus, man, like that's crazy. Especially because I didn't have many videos out at that point. There was one video that went viral on Facebook of all places of me and my professor, you know, and maybe that's what she came in contact with. But yeah, couple viral moments,
Yeah, a couple. But can you just correct me on timeline? I don't have my notes in front of me as I don't, like, usually I'm behind a desk. Nobody sees my legs.
Right.
It's a very different energy.
This is
for
nice.
Me today.
Yeah. That's different.
You won a Grammy.
Yeah.
What year was that?
Last year.
Okay, so
This year?
Yeah, see, I have no
was this year.
concept of time.
It was this year, February.
Since the pandemic, I've been living in a effing vortex, dude. And like, I just think it's all one long year.
Yeah, no, right.
It's really bad.
It was this year, February 2023.
Wow. Sick.
Mm-hmm.
Damn, that's crazy.
I know, right? Yeah, they're at home.
Yeah, like you guys in your apartment?
No, in my parents' house.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
They must be so proud.
Yeah. As soon as they got them, they were like, they're here. They took pictures of them and stuff. Yeah.
What is that even like? It's hard to even like phrase a question because it is an insane thing.
Yeah,
no?
it's pretty wild. It's pretty freaking wild. And I didn't expect, you know, like I got there to the Grammys. I mean, I was like there like a week before. Not a week. It was like a couple days before the actual ceremony. And I was like seeing people that I just did like The Rock and like Beyonce and like Snow Allegra and like SZA. Like I was like, what, are all these people real? Like I couldn't even really believe it. I was like, wow, you guys, I'm like a couple tables away from like music, the music industry.
All the music. Does that change the way you perceive what you do? Being in that room and then winning those trophies?
Maybe I guess I was more aware in that room of where I stood, which is not a bad thing. It's just like, okay, I'm here. I'm definitely like one of, if not the underdog, which is totally cool with me because, as I said before, I'm not very, I wasn't very used to being in the spotlight and stuff like that. And I wasn't sure before singing jazz if I even wanted to pursue a career in music because I knew I loved to sing. I just didn't know if I could break out, like one of these, like Taylor Swift and like, break out and be a star, And so I was just like, I don't know, but I'll pursue jazz and see what happens. But being in that room, I was like, wow. And winning, that was pretty, I'm still shocked. Like just thinking about it and thinking about that moment, I couldn't believe it. So, and now I'm kind of like coming back to normal, but.
What pushed you to even pursue jazz in the first place? How did you know that was the genre for you?
I mean, I was introduced to it in high school, and I always loved things that maybe I didn't think was jazz at the time, like Snarky Puppy and like George Duke. I don't know why I didn't associate it or think that it had influence or, a root in jazz or whatever, but I was always kind of drawn to it, Layla Hathaway. But then when I got to college, that was really when I started like listening to the jazz that maybe I perform now and listen to now. And so, yeah, I was just kind of being surrounded by, funny enough, all of these musicians who were already into it. It inspired me to want to know more about it and develop my own relationship with it.
And how does that relationship even begin?
You just kind of have to find what you like or find something that inspires you. So for me, I had never listened to Ella Fitzgerald. I had never listened to Sarah Vaughan before I got to college. And so listening to them for the first time, I guess it's how people, when people listen to me for the first time, they're like kind of thrown off because it's something that they're not used to hearing. Not that it's like, oh, it's super unique and everything like that, but it's just a sound that's not mainstream, that's not broadcasted, as widely as it could be, or maybe because the ears of the public might be oversaturated with a whole lot of different genres and sounds and stuff like that. But when I first listened to Sarah Vaughan, I was like, I want to sing with this kind of emotion, no corrections, no, in the studio kind of things. It's just like raw, live talent and communication and connection with the audience and storytelling through the song. So that was how my relationship with it started.
How do you eventually match that with the want and need to tell your own story?
I think it comes as you practice, because when I first started, I didn't even know I wanted to tell a story. It was just I wanted to develop my voice first, because I feel like even if you have a story to tell, but you don't have the foundation or the technique to even control your voice, then it's gonna come across as flat anyway. So that's what my main focus was at first, was developing my voice. And then from there, as I started listening to more repertoire, reading interviews about these musicians and, asking questions about them from people who played with them, like on the scene and stuff, that's kind of how I was like, okay, they were able to tell their story like this, or drawing from this inspiration. Now me in 2023, I listen to gospel and pop and R&B and soul and watch Soul Train with my mom and stuff. And so how can I it's not something that I have to force or anything. It's just all of those inspirations and those influences are already in me. And now I'm adding jazz to the mix, and hopefully through practice, I'll be able to get better.
Do you remember the first time you tried to write your own song?
Yes. Oh my gosh. And it was so bad because at the time I was like heavy into Taylor Swift. I was heavy. I used to read Tiger Beat and like all of those things.
You're like an original
I was
pop
heavy.
girly, eh?
I was listening to Jonas Brothers and like stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, how can they like express themselves so like clearly? Like I wish I could do that. And so I was trying to write and I was just like, forget this, man. But Yeah, my dad, he got me a guitar, and he got me a bass too. And so I was working on it, but I was like, I'll never be Taylor Swift. I literally remember thinking that, like, I was like, I'll never be able to tell my story this like directly,
Yeah, but you do in your own way, no? You know?
Maybe so, yeah. I've gotten better at it. I still have a ways to go where my original compositions are concerned, but now I've amassed a lot more influences, thankfully.
How often, like, do you believe, two different approaches, right? So, like, you go into the studio and get it done in 2 days. Mm-hmm. People who write songs can make the case that you have to write a song a day, right? Every day, for, like, years to even, like, figure out that, like, unearth the muscle that is within you.
Exactly.
Totally different concept.
Mm-hmm. And I remember watching an interview of Ed Sheeran talking about that too, about like the fact that when you first start writing, it's like a dirty faucet, and like what comes out is just dirty water. It's trash. It's not usable or whatever. But as you keep writing, things get clearer, and you might come across a better idea, and the water gradually starts getting clearer until it's like it becomes a part of you, and that muscle is unearthed. So yeah, and I agree.
Are you working on an original project, or even like that? I know this is yours and his original.
Yeah. Song by song.
Song by song.
Song by
That's
song.
the move.
Yeah, day by day, song by song.
Why is that the approach today?
Because I know that's not where my strength, at least at the moment, and what it has always been, is interpretation and imitation. I used to imitate Kim Burrell. I used to imitate, pop singers off of Disney Channel and stuff like that. I used to want to like try to figure out what was like the difference between each sound. Layla Hathaway, how I could make my voice deeper and that kind of stuff. And so writing, even though I've written lyrics and stuff like that, writing is not really like my first strength, Yeah. And so I know that it's something I need to work on, and I don't want to present something to my audience that isn't fully worked through, in my opinion, or something that's not fully my strength yet. I'll try it out live, maybe, but I want to give it some time.
It's amazing that you try things out live.
Yeah.
Nobody does that.
No.
Like,
I love it.
Neil Young used to do shows where he just played all new fucking music and he would test it all out, and then you'd never hear it again. It was also the time before like cell phones, you know what I mean? So like he had room and opportunity to do that.
Exactly. And that's like the nature of being an artist. Like if you're staying in one spot, then you're not really allowed to grow and explore what else you have to say, musically. So
true. It's fascinating that like interpretation and imitation is your strength. So like, do you, when you hear something like somebody's voice, do you know where to go? Because by the way, like that is a common thread between some of the greatest vocalists of all time. Like one of my good friends is Ariana Grande, and she can do impressions of, spot on, crazy, stupid impressions. But still, just like you have figured out exactly what is her sound.
Right.
So when you hear somebody singing, how do you break it down in your head?
I don't know. I just try it. I do agree. Like Ariana has great impressions. I saw on Fallon.
Shakira, Coolidge, Britney Spears.
I can't do it like that. That is definitely a skill. But for some singers, I can.
She has a good Zach sang too.
But yeah, I don't know. I just try it out. That's all.
So do you will you hear it and just keep going until you feel like you got it?
Until I find it. Yeah.
So you find it. And then how do you, then you take all that you've learned and done and you make it your own, right?
Yeah. And it's just, I don't want to force that either, because I feel like before I started listening to jazz, I was imitating and interpreting and doing my thing. And, if I did a certain run or sang something with a certain depth, I'd be like, oh, that came from, I didn't realize it maybe in the moment, but I pulled it from something. But I wasn't like in that moment. I was trying to, Totally. It was just, I absorbed it. It's in my ear. It's in my voice. I've practiced it. But really I just love doing it. So I did it over and over, repetition, and eventually it just came out organically, and it's a part of me.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Samara Joy, The Joyful Holiday. It's now my head. You should definitely grab it. We're going to put a link in the description below so you can listen to the entire thing on Amazon Music. But you can also listen to all Samara's music on Amazon Music. It's really great.
Thank you.
I listened to it all this morning.
Thank you.
It brought Christmas my way.
The lights, camera.
Yeah, right. It's giving Christmas in
it's
here.
It's giving vibes, okay? It's not October. There's no way.
No,
There's no
October
way.
who?
December all year long.
100%. When you're tackling a project like this, I mean, how many times can one make a Christmas album? You get what I'm
I
saying?
know. I think the next one is going to be a gospel Christmas one, though.
Cool.
We'll see.
How do you balance that? And like, even like, so are you curating, and maybe that's the right way to like phrase it. Like, are you curating or working on curating another original body of work? And by original, I mean like it, even if it is covers, but you're picking those songs that you want to interpret and share.
Yeah, I'm working on it. And my dream is to have a family, because my family made an album in the 90s. I was not thought of yet, but I listened to it all the time.
A glimmer.
I wasn't a glimmer. I wasn't a twinkling in my father's eye, but I listened to it all the time. And I was like, my dream, even though I've sung with them, in Thanksgiving and stuff like that, they sang together all the time. And so to have a project, but of course life is like, everybody has kids, everybody moves to different places. We can't pursue the dream of singing all together anymore as much or as frequently. And so to be able to pull them all into the studio, maybe with some special guests, and have a project where it's like the family album, a return or something like that, I would love that. In addition to something of my own, like a large ensemble kind of thing, with strings or with horns, but whenever I'm feeling right, I just want to get in the studio. Like, instead of having limited time, I just want to go for it.
You go in with the songs that you want to interpret?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Are you like writing songs down that ideally you want to do?
Yeah. I have a full notes thing, in my phone. I'm thinking of live tracks of recording gigs from now on to add to that. Like, I just want to have, I'm thinking about different textures to have in the album, but we'll see. Right now I don't want to hinder any ideas for the sake of thinking of the perfect album off of rip. I just want to explore, and then we'll make the album from there.
And also be prepared, right? Like, you talk about recording all your songs, like having that in the art, like songs, recording all your performances, like that is cool.
Exactly.
Jacob Collier has like a chorus of like 150,000 people or something, and it's only amassed from his live shows.
I know, it's crazy.
It's crazy shit. He's really cool too.
Amazing.
You all are so talented. I've been really lucky. I've gotten a chance to like really sit down in like the last few weeks with really cool musicians, yourself obviously included. But like Leve is up there, like Jacob is up there, like all like the three of you doing something so completely different.
Yeah.
But
that's
yet
the beauty. That's the beauty of it.
It really is. It is so different yet so the same, but definitely made for today in a way that like just very few could ever do.
Appreciate that.
No, you're really gifted. You're really a gift. A joyful holiday. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. The Christmas song is a good one to put on here. I'm glad you did that.
Yeah, with my dad too.
That's really special.
Yeah.
Well, you have two versions of the Christmas song on this body of work, eh?
Yes. Oh yeah.
What's the
Giving
difference?
people options. The first one is just me, but the second one is a live performance from the holiday tour I did with my family, and it's a duet with my dad.
That's what I was wondering.
Music video coming out too.
By the way, it's all waiting for you. Link in the description below. Come on, tap away.
Tap in.
All of Samara's music is waiting for you on Amazon Music. I really appreciate you.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
No, your parents must be so proud of you.
I know they are. My mom, she brags everywhere. We can't go out to eat without her telling the waitress and pulling up a photo of me at the Grammys.
Good.
And they're like, "Is that is that you really?" Because I'm not like made up all the time, but yeah, she always I have to let her have it. This is your moment.
When you look at like goals and you try to like set a path for yourself, even though like that's hard to do, and like you can think and manifest one thing, and reality can always be different. Do you, like what is on your list of goals? Like, do you really genuinely like set out with the hope and dream of like changing perception of jazz? Is it to sell out arenas? What? Or is it to just have a relevant place in music? I mean, you talk about understanding. It is true. When you're in a fucking crazy room like that at the Grammys, you do understand where you fall.
Stand, yeah.
But then you also understand where your community is that you represent falls. And I mean that like jazz, gospel as a whole. You know what I mean? Like, they're not money makers in the same way that hip hop or pop are. They don't warrant the same amount of tables. And how close is that table to the camera?
Right,
like,
right.
You know,
Exactly.
it's all connected.
That's true. Well, I think my goal from when I was 9 years old listening to Stevie Wonder and Chaka Khan, I dreamed or thought of being able to sing on a stage. I didn't think about arenas. I didn't think about being the most famous or the most popular. I just thought about doing something musically that was as special and unique as the artist that I listen to. And now those goals haven't changed. You know, post Grammys, I'm glad definitely for the amount of people that have been introduced to me and stayed as a result. You know, they're just like, oh, I never heard this before. People come up to me at shows. This is my first ever jazz show. You are my first introduction to this kind of thing. That's kind of what my goal is. It's not necessarily to change the perception of jazz, but it's to keep introducing people to me through the music that I do, because I feel like apart from music, I don't know. It's like it's so innate and so a part of me that it's like the only way that I can truly express me as a whole, you know. And maybe that's contradictory to what people think jazz is. It's like putting you in a box and like forcing you to sing and be a jukebox or whatever. But I feel like this space is where I feel like I can be the most me. Singing on stage for however many people, you know, is the place that I can feel most myself. And I want to continue to do that. I want to continue to both appease, I don't know if appease is the right word, but challenge my audience. You know, as I grow, the music will continue to grow. And hopefully they grow with me. And that's my goal.
You're giving timeless.
We're giving.
Classic. That was really Gen Z.
Classic.
That was good. Samara Joy. Listen to her music. It's all waiting for you on Amazon Music. Link in the description below, plus a joyful holiday. Come on, play it for your grandma. It's really good. It's really, really good. I appreciate your time, your talent, and your energy today.
Thank you.
Samara Joy, everybody.
Woohoo.